click record right now. So we can share this video with you all so you can review it and follow up accordingly. We're just going to address the questions tonight that were submitted beforehand via the parent surveys. Any further additional questions we will address in either in a separate meeting if needed, or via email accordingly. We had so many questions and I don't want this meeting to go, super late into the evening. So we will address questions that weren't yet submitted at a different time and platform. As we go into all of this and we dive into all of this, I want to preface all of it, and I'm going to try to say this as many times as possible. This is our current working plan and strategy. As we know, this pandemic has really taught us to expect the unexpected all day, every day. So this is where we are currently at. And as best practices change, as guidelines change, as the nature of the pandemic continues to evolve, we are committed to continuing being responsive in that way and being communicative with our community, any changes or updates or important bits of information to share. So I do want to continually share that and remind you that nothing during this pandemic is set in stone. We get new information daily. We get, the numbers change daily. New York changes daily. So just please keep that in mind as we go through all of this. So first and foremost, I wanted to share our reopening timeline with you. And as you can see, we have several phases. We closed in March, and we kind of immediately went into virtual home support while trying to create a plan of what reopening could look like. And that started really when it became clear and apparent that this was not a 2-week closure. As guidelines from the CDC, New York State, the Department of Health, OCFS have become available, we have studied those. I can probably verbatim tell you what's on those papers at this point. Understanding best practices, surveying our community, and leveraging our relationships. Sarah Shattervan, who works in a whole network of schools, and her relationships and partnerships, as well as joining the Brooklyn Coalition of Early Childhood Programs, which has proven to be very, very beneficial to our planning, our preparation, and understanding and building those relationships deeper and further within the Brooklyn community, and creating our school safety plan that we are sharing this evening. So now we're kind of out of that planning phase, right? We're entering the preparation phase, team training and practice, which is what our team who's returning in August for the August program will be doing the next 2 weeks. Supply ordering and inventorying, we were kind of already doing that, but we're really, heightening that to make sure that we have everything available. We have great news. We did receive a PPE grant from, I think it was the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, for some cleaning and PPE materials. So we're very grateful for that grant and those items. Facility cleaning, sanitization, and some building maintenance, notably the HVAC maintenance. And then as we reopen and welcome folks back into our building, continually implementing our safety plan and protocols. And that will take, and we are really dependent upon the commitment of every single person on this call. And this is something that I cannot stress and say enough, that we must all, the teachers, the administration, the parents, the authorized pickup persons, the students, as much as we can guide them and support that process, but we must all be committed to adhering to our safety protocol, and while we are both at school and outside of school. So things like social distancing, travel restrictions, quarantine, communicating with one another. And it's not just from the school, we are reliant upon our community to communicate back to us and be honest and transparent with symptoms and COVID testing and things of that nature. This reopening strategy is completely dependent upon every single person's commitment, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And we will be enforcing these policies, these protocol very strictly. If you're familiar with us and you've been a current family, you know that we're always flexible, transparent. You know, we always work with families. However, when it comes to the health and safety, notably around COVID policies, we will be enforcing a zero tolerance policy. So up to expulsion and termination of enrollment and termination of employment. This is a very serious time that we are about to enter, and we will be adhering very strictly to these policies. We'll be doing daily and weekly team check-ins and ongoing record keeping. And then as we reopen, which you can see the dates here, we will constantly be in this cycle of reviewing our guidelines, our policy, best practices, participating in weekly Brooklyn Coalition meetings, weekly staff meetings, to really make sure that we are up to date and we are staying on top of best practices, updated guidelines, updated protocol. We will constantly be communicating that with our community, but know that that is a process that we will be taking very seriously, daily, weekly, and monthly as we reopen. Next slide, please, Mr. Casey. So diving right into some key points, the next several slides are going to be pretty arduous, I think, as we review the key points of our safety plan and policies and protocol. We will be sharing, like I said, the full, thorough, detailed safety plan that is many pages long, and we will require that everybody reads that thoroughly prior to attendance. There's an entire agreement and acknowledgement that will be signed. However, it will be a Google Drive document, so it will be updated in real time so you can see it. So please know that these are the protocol and policies and procedures today. And as things evolve, this may change, and we will communicate accordingly with you. So drop off and pickup is different, will be very different when we are back in person. We will implement drop off locations. So we're very lucky to have multiple points of entry into our school. So per program, per classroom, we will assign, and we will communicate that before your start. You're assigned drop-off time, and you're assigned drop-off location. The drop-off locations are the front middle door, so the vestibule, the main entrance, the front right-hand door that is the closest door to Union Market. It's kind of, it's hard to see because it's painted the same color as the facade, but we will be utilizing that. And then the third door will be in the rear of the school. It's the entrance off of Tompkins Place, and it's the exit that we use in emergencies. We have a little courtyard back there, but that will be a point of drop off and pick up. And this is specifically to encourage social distancing and while enabling to get in as many students as possible, so we're not extending a drop off or pickup window that doesn't allow us to honor the Montessori work cycle. So like I said, we will be communicating that with you before your attendance day. We will be very strict about late drop-offs and early pickups. And this is multifaceted, multi-reasons for this. Notably, we're doing everything that we can to enable ourselves to deliver an authentic Montessori program. And with these additional safety protocols, we're working extra against the grain in a lot of ways to be able to deliver that. And things like work cycle interruptions really inhibit that flow and that concentration, but also we will be implementing such a protocol once the children come into the classroom. I'm not confident to say that children entering or exiting at certain times, will that protocol be followed? This is going to be a routine that we have to really adhere to. So late pickups or late drop-offs after 9 a.m. prohibited, early pickups prohibited. We really have to know where every single human is in our building at all times and really tighten that up. Also, our late pickup fees are increased, and that will be in the details that we go over, to really make sure that we're not mixing children waiting for their pickup time. Part of the guidelines are we are not allowed to mix children between classrooms, so groups of children cannot interact or mix. And if we have children that are waiting for their pickup time, it makes that separation much more difficult. Face coverings are required for all adults dropping off and picking up. All individuals above 2 years old, face coverings are required. And 1 approved adult per child per time at drop off and pickup. So please, we love seeing extended family members. We love seeing both parents at drop off and pick up. Please know that all of these measures that we're implementing are strictly for the health and safety of our entire community. Arrival and entry protocol. So daily you will be sent a form in Transparent Classroom that you will fill out prior to drop off, that outlines COVID symptoms, things like, have you had a fever? Do you have these symptoms? Has anyone in your household been exposed or tested positive for COVID, etc.? So you'll be sent that every day, and you'll be required to have that completed on your own personal device prior to drop off. And staff will have the same daily health questionnaire. Any person coming into our building also has to complete that same health questionnaire. And then upon arrival and drop off or entry, we will undergo a physical health screening. Part of that will be a contactless temperature check and physical symptom screening for COVID. Records for children will be kept in Transparent Classroom, so you can view that digitally. They'll also be kept and maintained confidentially, only visible to families and administration. We will be keeping a visitor log for any essential visitors. So if something needs to be fixed, and we will do everything in our power to limit even essential visitors to weekends or after school hours. However, if there is an essential visitor that does need to enter the premises, all of these protocols are the same for everyone. And that essential visitor will be tracked and kept in a log, and follow that protocol accordingly. Face coverings must be worn. Once you come in, we'll have hand sanitizer stations, or once you're dropping off, available for everyone to sanitize. There will be a classroom entry routine upon entry for the children. So you'll be dropping off at the door of the school, so one of those 3 doors, and staff will be escorting children to their classrooms. And once children enter the classroom, there will be a class entry protocol that is immediately washing hands, changing into classroom shoes, etc. The good thing is, at Montessori school, we were already doing that same classroom entry protocol every day. So not a huge change for us. Staff will change their shoes at the front office, the front lobby. Adults will change their shoes or put shoe coverings on. Contactless sign in and sign out, utilizing Transparent Classroom. So we are no longer doing the fingerprint scan. Individuals dropping off or picking up will need to use their own individual personal device and log into Transparent Classroom to check in or check out. We will have iPads available if someone is unable to log in or doesn't have the personal device for whatever reason. However, if you do have your personal device and you are able to do it, we strongly encourage you to use your own device, so we're not crossing things over in that way. If you do use the iPad, it will be sanitized accordingly in between uses. And then finally, before anyone can attend or enter the building, the COVID attendance agreement and disclosure does have to be signed, and that will be sent to all families prior to attendance. So for August families next week, and for September families in August. And that is a lengthy release of liability. It's a lengthy acknowledgement of our safety plan. And it's also a lengthy agreement that you will follow these protocols both in school and out of school. So our vendors or any consultants or essential visitors that we have will be required to signing that prior to entry, as well as staff, parents, and anyone else that we are working with at our school. And finally, visitor restrictions. All non-essential visitors are prohibited. This includes school events. This includes in-house presentations. We are putting a moratorium on outside field trips for the time being. This also includes any non-essential parent visitations. So we will never restrict parents from seeing your children while they are in our care at our school. However, we will not be doing in-classroom birthday celebrations or in-classroom observations for families. If you feel strongly that you need to be in your child's classroom or observe, we will work with you individually, one-on-one. However, I do ask and request that we all consider the collective, because really what we're striving to do is limit contact and limit exposure. So the more folks that we have coming into our building, the more exposure that we have for our entire community. So know that is why we are really prohibiting and restricting visitations as much as possible. And let's see here. Approved adult protocol. So approved authorized adults to pick up and drop off children. Previously, we have done it in a way that you could send us an email. So we had it in writing. We had parents calling us or telling us verbally. And we are going to be adhering very strictly to whatever is in your child's transparent classroom profile is who will be allowed to pick up and drop off. If someone comes and they are not in that profile, you can expect a call. We will not release the child. You cannot email us just saying you have a change. There will be a form that is omnipresent in your account to fill out. So if you have a change or an update to your authorized pickup person, you can utilize that form in your transparent classroom profile to keep that updated accordingly. We will also be requiring photo uploads into transparent classroom of those individuals. And this is purposely because when we're doing drop off and pickup, we will be juggling. We are limited on our admin team and our, how many folks we have in the building. We will be looking completely at the iPad and your transparent classroom profile to know who is what, to look at your daily health screening questionnaire, to record the temperature, to check your child in. So we do not have the ability to quickly check an email or have a piece of paper. So we're really dependent upon what is in transparent classroom. And that is the reason why that we will be adhering very, very closely to that protocol. So please be mindful of that. And it will take some time for all of us to learn. So know that you will be redirected to transparent classroom and updating that accordingly. Social distancing while at school. Lots to go over here. So I'm going to talk pretty quickly. So we will be working to maintain a distance of 6 feet between adults when possible. And also I preface all of this with, if there is an emergency, we will not be social distancing. An emergency comes first, the child's health or that of a teacher, an evacuation, that will take precedence over social distancing. We also work with young children, so there's idealism and there's realism, and that's also why we will be leveraging PPE is applicable for children over the age of 2, and we'll share some resources with families before you start on how to prepare children to wear the face mask and what we'll be doing in the classroom. And having staff PPE and face masks, we'll be doing face shields and face masks. We'll be kind of evolving as we go to see what our staff really prefer, but we will be providing all of that and take that very, very seriously. We will be having social distance markers around the school, both for children when they're lining up in the classroom or on the rooftop, for families when they're waiting, it's for drop off or pickup, that will be indicated on the sidewalk. Stairwells will be limited to the direction. So the front stairwell is for the up direction, the rear stairwell is for down. And again, this is excluding emergencies. Elevator use is restricted to 1 adult and 5 students at a time, and it's only going to be for infant and toddler. The primary students, this was already a policy, but we'll be adhering to it closer. Primary students can and should use the steps. It's a great gross motor exercise and activity. Staff scheduling and tracking. So it's a very delicate dance that we'll be doing for staff scheduling to encourage and maximize social distancing. And any individual that comes into our building will be given specific outline for the spaces in which they are authorized and the times that they are authorized to be in those spaces. And that is specifically for contact tracing. If there is a COVID test or symptoms within our community, we are required to report that accordingly to the Department of Health, and we want to be able to communicate appropriately to families who may have been exposed, and that's through contact tracing. So scheduling and authorized access will be our biggest tools in being able to do that. Staff meetings, we're limiting to only on the rooftop if weather allows, or continuing virtually, even if we're all in the building at the same time, maintaining our distance in separate rooms and connecting via Zoom. Posted and limited capacity of shared spaces, modifications with furniture, etc., being made at school. Staff and student ratios are maintained. We're still following DOH ratios. However, there will be no more than 2 staff per classroom. We're minimizing as much as humanly possible staff floating. So administrators will be offering breaks in classrooms, and our goal is to limit classroom entry to maximum of 2 classrooms per floater per day. Previously, we had a floater going in and out of many different classrooms, so our staffing model is such to really minimize that as much as possible. So Mr. Casey and I and Ms. Batista will be getting to enter the classrooms and do lunch breaks and spend even more time with the children, which I'm so excited about. Maximum group size of 15, and that 15 number is from the state guidelines, and that's in primary. Maximum group size will continue to be 12 in toddler and 9 in infant. Static independent classroom cohorts. So aftercare will stay in their own classroom all day. Children will not be mixing. We'll have a divider on the roof, so classrooms stay separate while on the rooftop, etc. So children are not mixing with other individuals from different classrooms. Monitor and planning for staff absenteeism. So we will continue to utilize our substitute agency, and we've are in the process of sharing our safety plan and protocol accordingly. So all of this will be part of their training if their staff come to our school, and that the signing off on the agreements, et cetera, will all be a part of that process. And we are continuing, we've been working on this, and we continue to work on building our own Ppe employed pool of substitutes. So we do our own training and they're our own part-time employees. Also, it's not listed here, but the Brooklyn Coalition that we are a part of early childhood programs, we are also in communication about creating our own staff pool and sharing those resources. So as that becomes apparent, we'll share that information as well. Contact tracing, I talked a little bit about that earlier. We will have a designated illness isolation room, and this is a new concept for us in the first floor office. Previously, we did not isolate children if they had certain symptoms, if they had, 100-degree fever, or if they had diarrhea, if they were comfortable and we were able to continue to monitor them and keep them separated as much as possible. We did not take them out of the classroom in those instances. However, the new guidelines do dictate that we will have to immediately isolate students. And that means that you will get a phone call home. They will be in the first floor office, which is my office on the first floor. They'll be kept comfortable. We'll play and work together and have some fun if they're able, or otherwise we'll have a cot for them to stay comfortable, water, take care of them until you're able, or a caregiver is able to pick up immediately. And that we will be very, very closely adhering to the 30-minute window for an immediate illness phone call pickup. The prepared environment. So as a Montessori school, our environments in our classrooms are so purposeful. It's one of the things that I think is most beautiful about Montessori, that every aspect of the classroom is thought through, and that we're really doing that and undergoing that process prior to welcoming students back, thinking through how we can encourage social distancing within the classroom through the environment and how the environment is set up, what kind of work we have on the shelves. And much of the environment, much of the work and the materials already encourage social distancing in a lot of ways. Montessori classrooms really, a lot of the goal is to encourage and aid independence and independent concentration and focus. So children we're already doing kind of a model of social distancing in the classrooms because of the way that things work anyways. But we will be, having those social distancing markers when we do a group activity, limiting the amount of groups so there's space, etc. As well as preparing the environment from a nap perspective, maintaining that 6 feet distance for nappers with the cots, for the lunch, for snack, etc., and in aftercare. So that will be very purposeful, just like we approach our prepared environment all the time. We will, of course, continue to wash and feed and hold and comfort and diaper our students. We will have smocks and PPE for our teachers that they'll be required to change out if there's drool or something on the smock, or any of the PPE. But the emotional needs of the child are so important, and we will, and I want to be very clear about that we are not, when a child is in need, we are not going to maintain a physical distance. We will absolutely comfort the child. We will be hands-on, diaper changing, holding, etc. However, in terms of feeding, that is a little bit different. So practical life food prep items and materials will be removed from the classroom. So things like banana slicing, egg slicing, etc., spreading, that will not be available initially until these guidelines are kind of lifted. We will alter the way that we do snack. Previously in the Montessori classroom, children served themselves, and that was a really important part of the process. However, the new guidelines determine that children will be served by teachers who keep the food separate, et cetera, and safe. Student water bottles, this is a new thing, will be sent home with your child every night for you to clean and sanitize at night and return to school filled with water from your home. This is to make sure that they're clean and sanitized properly. While we're implementing all of these other things that we're cleaning and sanitizing, we want to make sure that, you know, sharing that load in a way to make sure that it's all happening properly. PPE must be worn at all times by our staff. We will be providing it to staff, so we'll be providing smocks, we'll be providing face shields, we'll be providing face masks, gloves, soap, hand sanitizer, all of the necessary and applicable PPE. All individuals aged 2 and older will be required to wear a face mask or a face covering, and that will be provided by the family. We will have a stockpile at school just in case that are cleaned and sanitized after use, but we do request that your child comes to school wearing the face covering if your child is over 2. And again, we'll be sending resources and information about how to prepare your child to return to school, and that will be a part of those resources that we provide. Maintaining social distancing outside of school, super important. This is part of the agreement that we'll all be signing. So being very conscious of where you're going, wearing a face covering in public at all times, really limiting the contact that you're having in your home and outside of your home, being very cognizant of how you're using playgrounds and how you're approaching playgrounds, what kind of play dates you're having, and also limiting travel to essential purposes only, and following New York State restrictions and quarantine protocol accordingly. Right now, you can go to the New York Forward website and view the travel restrictions for quarantine if you're out of state, and know that you are required, a lot of states are now required to do a 14-day quarantine once you come back into New York City. So please be aware of that as you're preparing and planning to return to school, whether it's August 3rd or September 8th, to make sure that you have quarantined the appropriate amount of time, you and your family. And that goes for all members of your household. Okay, let's see, cleaning and disinfection. We're fully stocked with EPA cleaning supplies. Little anecdote here, when I came to Cobble Hill years ago at this point, cleaning supplies and having an inventory and stock of certain things was very difficult at that time. So it's been my mission, one of my missions as head of school, to make sure we always have things. So each classroom will have an inventory sheet that they're required to make sure they have a week's worth of cleaning supplies in their classroom. And the school in our shared common storage areas will maintain at least a month's supply of the necessary cleaning supplies. The frequency of cleaning, materials will be cleaned throughout the day. So there will be a routine that is implemented and shared with the students, and they're directed and guided through, that once a child uses a material off of the shelf, there will be a to be cleaned shelf that the child will put that material back on, and the teachers will be monitoring that to make sure that it's happening. And then that item, the teacher will be able to then clean and sanitize those items before returning them to the work shelf in the classroom that become available again to the children. This goes for work mats and all items in the classroom. And children are amazing learners. And this type of routine, we've talked to many different Montessori schools throughout the country and throughout the world, and this seems to be the most common and best practice amongst all of us. So that is how we'll be implementing to make sure that the materials are cleaned before sharing them with someone else. And that process will be throughout the entire work cycle in the mornings teachers will constantly be cleaning and sanitizing those materials. We also will have some backup materials available, art supply, all sorts of backup stockpile in classrooms, so then a fresh one can be put out, so we're not overloaded with that process. Classrooms will be cleaned and sanitized nightly. School common areas will be cleaned and sanitized, so doorknobs, hallways, etc. will be cleaned and sanitized after drop off and after each pickup. So that common space while children are out of the classroom is sanitized accordingly. We'll be keeping records. This is a new item, maintaining cleaning logs in the classroom. We already did this for our facility. However, classroom teams will be required to keep a cleaning log indicating, and it will be incorporated in their daily checklist of when that cleaning and what protocols were done. So we're updating our opening, midday, and closing checklists to incorporate that record keeping accordingly. Nap cots kept 6 feet apart, sanitized, individually assigned to children. So the same child uses the same cot every day. They're labeled with their name. Sheets will be sent home weekly and kept separate in individual cubbies. And those are all things that we were doing anyways. Soft items are all removed from the classroom, or we will have enough stockpile or inventory of these soft items, cloths, rags, that they will go on the to be clean shelf, and there will just be new fresh ones that are sanitized. So that process will be undergoing daily and nightly as well. Very important, this is a new item. Items from home are prohibited. Previously, we've done in classroom show and tell. We've also, allowed students to bring items into the classroom and they can stay in their cubby. This is a best practice and a guideline from New York State. So please, 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 please be conscious of the items that your child is bringing into school. The goal is to really limit the amount of non-essential items, people, things in our building at any time. In terms of our HVAC, it's in the process. We were already doing monthly HVAC maintenance. That was already something we were doing. So we are continuing that. However, we're upgrading our filters to MERV filters that will be part of the monthly maintenance. And our HVAC system does work in a way that it circulates outside air. It's on the mezzanine, and if you look at the building, you'll see kind of like the screens above the front door. That's where it pulls in outside air to be circulated. It does not recirculate indoor air. The classrooms with exterior windows, we will keep those windows open as much as we can, as weather permits, and we'll have fans to really, continue to pull in that air. We are installing HEPA air purification systems in all classrooms. Currently, just our infant classrooms had additional HEPA air purification systems, so we're in the process of installing all of the classrooms to have that prior to students enter the building August 3rd or September 8th. We will be using an electrostatic sprayer system daily as part of the nightly cleaning routine, as well as UVC lights to sanitize when the children are not in the building. It will be done by our professional cleaning crew. We have a professional cleaning crew that will come in nightly and sanitize using those items accordingly. Hygiene, student and staff hand washing protocol. So we will be implementing a protocol upon classroom entry. It was already, this is the beauty of Montessori, it was already a grace and courtesy lesson. Hand washing is already an activity that is in our classroom. So we'll expand upon that. We'll have a couple more hand washing stations available. Hand washing is always available and accessible to all children, including warm water, soap, hand sanitizer, etc. And throughout the work cycle, teachers will constantly be reminding students to wash their hands, and really hypersensitive and monitoring and observing when to remind a child to wash their hands. So it will be, you know, either everyone kind of stop what you're doing and wash your hands, or teachers will then take children in groups to make sure that that is a part of our daily routine and psyche within the classroom. Hand sanitizer stations are installed throughout the building. So anyone who cannot wash their hands at that time, hand sanitizer is available. Staff hygiene protocol is implemented. So this was already part of our operations, but just kind of tightening it up a little bit. Loose hair will have to be tied back, clothing, wearing the PPE, the smocks, etc. Healthy hygiene signage posted throughout the building. It's not that aesthetically pleasing. However, we do want to make sure that we remind everyone to stay safe, wash your hands, use hand sanitizer, etc. COVID testing will be required for all staff prior to student reopening, and then every 2 weeks thereafter. All staff will be required to get COVID testing. Students whose household members test positive for COVID or exhibit COVID symptoms are required to be tested prior to attendance or returning to school. We're not at this time requiring all students and families to undergo COVID testing or pursue ongoing COVID testing. Again, this is a very fluid nature of this situation, and as you know, best practices and guidelines are shared. This is COVID testing is one of those areas that could change or evolve, so please be aware of that. Stay home measures. We are relying on you to stay home when you do not feel well, and to keep your child home when your child is not feeling well. Staff are expected to do the same as our admin or anyone that is, you know, part of our community, to stay home. Staff will be provided additional paid sick leave, so they don't have to worry about, you know, oh, I don't want to take the time off, etc. This is very, very, very important. If you're unsure, if you're not feeling it, please keep your child home. Please stay home. Plan for COVID-19 positive tests within the community or COVID symptoms within our community. So a member of a student's household or staff's household tests positive or exhibits COVID symptoms. That child is excluded from school for at least the quarantine period of 14 days or until there's a negative test. We will communicate accordingly to our community and through contact tracing, communicate potential exposure to those individuals who are traced back. We will be in very frequent touch and communication with Department of Health. We're required to report it and then follow their guidelines and their mandates. That classroom will be deep, super detailed, cleaned and sanitized, as will the entire facility, but that classroom specifically will be very paid attention to. That classroom will be closed for 14 days or until a critical mass of students after the incubation period, which is currently 5 days, can submit a negative COVID test. So in that scenario, as it stands now, we will be continuing to monitor the situation and communicate with that classroom and anyone in contact or exposed to the individuals in that classroom. And we all will have to be very fluid and responsive to the way that the situation unfolds. Asymptomatic exposure or cautionary quarantine. The student will be excluded from school until there is a negative COVID-19 test submitted. They'll be excused immediately from school. That family will take the child outside of the school for the pickup. Restricted adult access, communication, the same sanitizing routine, and then that classroom will not close, but we will implement intermittent health checks throughout the day where we're frequently taking the temperature and physical symptoms for COVID of the students and teachers in that classroom to continue that monitoring. In either of the scenarios above, again, very, very fluid, subject to change daily or weekly, and we will communicate accordingly. However, we will follow the guidance of the local authorities to prioritize the public health and safety of our community, up to including complete school reclosure and reopening. We will always do what we feel is in the best interest of not just our community's public health, but that of broader Brooklyn and all of the communities that we are all a part of. We are hopeful that that doesn't happen, but we will be in touch and communicate accordingly with you. We will be strictly enforcing our illness policy. So that means an immediate pickup of 30 minutes, within 30 minutes. So please be prepared. If you get that phone call, your child will need to be picked up within 30 minutes. A student will be isolated in the first floor office again. And these are things like temperature, 100.4 or higher temperature. Diarrhea, just one instance of diarrhea, one instance of vomiting despite the circumstances. That is our illness policy. That is the guidelines of New York State, and that is what we will be adhering to very, very closely. And an updated change in New York State Department of Health, New York City Department of Health, is that child, once they're sent home, cannot return to school for 72 hours symptom-free. So at the end of their symptoms, if a child, their temperature broke at noon on a Tuesday, technically that whole next day is the first 24 hours. So it's 3 solid school days. And so we'll be adhering to that very, very closely. And then finally, student documented immunizations. All enrollment paperwork is due for everyone, despite if you're starting August 3rd or September 8th, August 1st. And absolutely, you must have up-to-date immunizations updated in your transparent classroom by August 1st. We will be going through, and if your child does not have that proper paperwork, they cannot attend school. And the only exception that is allowed is a medical exemption by your child's pediatrician. Okay. We are getting very close on time. I apologize. So preparing and implementing our prep weeks, so July 20th through 31st, and our prep week, August 31st through September 4th, is a robust, in-depth staff training that we will be training and practicing all of this. Strictly enforced and disciplined up to termination and expulsion for families and staff. Again, we take this very, very seriously. COVID attendance and work agreements that you will be receiving in transparent classroom. Staff will fill theirs out in our HR system. Employee resources, as we prepare and implement and go through this, a lot of different changes. So we'll be doing virtual remote workshops with our teachers, professional guidance. We have a Ppe sponsored employee assistance program that provides mental health appointments and resources and therapy, financial support, legal resources, etc. And we'll be encouraging and reminding staff to leverage those resources that are available to them. Again, increased paid sick leaves for staff so they can stay home when they're not feeling well. Ongoing support and communication within our community. Again, communication, especially now, is a two-way street, and we are relying upon everyone to communicate honestly, truthfully, and transparently back to us. And we've always been committed to providing that with our community, and our ask is that that is reciprocated as well. Frequent staff meetings, so virtual or outside, if we can be outside, to review our protocol and what's working, what's not working, any tweaks that we may need to make. Weekly staff check-ins, one-on-one individually. Classroom and school checklists. So again, the opening, midday, closing checklists that are very thorough, updated with all of our COVID protocol. Taking a responsive approach. So again, as things become clear or guidelines change, we are very flexible and will be responsive accordingly to make sure that we are following the guidelines and best practices. And through all of this, maintaining our Montessori and Ppe values. So ongoing examination of how we are delivering an authentic Montessori program within our classroom, how we are adhering to our anti-bias, anti-racist education and approach as well, how we are trusting and learning and guiding one another as individuals, how we are maintaining honest transparency to say, you know, I'm not feeling well, or to really live that commitment of our COVID agreements to one another. And you know, like I said earlier, these new protocol does really, you know, they're not developed for a Montessori school. So considering all of our approach through our Montessori lens and how we're delivering that accordingly in the classroom. And then finally, ongoing facility preparation and maintenance. So installing all of the markers and signage, the PPE stations, the HVAC maintenance, the HEPA filter, air purification systems, etc. Okay, so that is our reopening safety plan. In a nutshell, again, you will be receiving a link to the working Google document so you can see changes in real time. And it's very detailed. You receive the overview. You'll receive the actual full, thorough, detailed, multi-page safety plan for your review as well. So we're going into our August reopening details. For families, thank you for filling out all of our surveys. I know we had many surveys, and I'm very appreciative of everyone that filled them out. We will be running an reopening August 3rd with a very small group of children, 28 in total, and 6 guides in total as well. And I cannot wait. It's like, I cannot wait. I know all of our teachers who are joining us in August are so excited as well. We are full in infant and primary enrollment for the August program. We do have 2 toddler spaces available. There will be 2 guides per program, per classroom. There will be 1 classroom per program. And the administration, Mr. Casey and myself, will be the floaters, providing breaks and assistance for classrooms. And these are, again, exclusive static cohorts of children. So they'll stay in their classroom or their access to the outdoor spaces accordingly. The program will follow the daily routine of that we followed in March before we left. So the work cycle, recess, but we will be increasing very much so outdoor time. And we will be doing that. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but it will follow the same general daily routine. We will continue August virtual program for families, full year families that are not attending in person in August, and that will continue to be charged at $750 in August. The entire program, both virtually and in person, we will be following the activities and themes already within the learning packs. And we'll be implementing for in-person a lot of the same activities, crafts, games, music, etc. Just not with the screen, but in person in the classroom. So just like our normal traditional summer program, we really focus more on practical life. We focus more on art and increased outdoor time. Our schedule when we return in August will be, our open hours will be from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. It will be 4 weeks straight from August 3rd to August 28th. No minimum days will be within those 4 weeks. Again, drop-off times will be assigned, and we will be communicating that to August families, drop-off time and location, and pickup time for aftercare accordingly next week for August families. Aftercare families in August can opt in for 4 or 5 p.m. and we'll be in communication about that next week. Infant families, all students that are enrolled in the August program will be from 8 to 5. We will follow again the same daily routine as the spring semester, rotating recess time. In the event of a weather situation that we can't be outside, using our rooftop and second floor terrace, that gross motor time will be only one classroom program at a time, to ensure that children are not interacting or mixing between classrooms. And late pickup fees, again, increased to $25 per 15 minutes, beginning at 5:01 or a minute after your assigned pickup time. And that is the same policy that we'll be implementing in the fall for September as well. I'm ready for the next one, thanks. Classroom and facility use. So for August, we're doing a program-wide combination to keep numbers low. So infant will be in the upper infant classroom. We have 6 infants that will be in the upper infant classroom together with an appropriate age group. Toddlers will be utilizing the primary 2 classroom on the 2nd floor, specifically so they can have all day access to the 2nd floor terrace, which is adjoined to that classroom. There's a door out to the 2nd floor terrace in primary 2. So the toddler group, I think there's 10 toddlers, will be in the primary 2 classroom, and we'll have it set up to be a toddler environment, but to be able to have that indoor outdoor space accordingly. And then finally, primary will be the group of 12 primary children will be in the primary 1 classroom in the front of the building. And that is so they are very close to the rooftop. So they'll have access to their portion of the rooftop throughout the morning work cycle and recess. So teachers can decide how, when to use the rooftop or take a small group up to the rooftop or the terrace, etc. The infants will have a partitioned space on the rooftop that is adequately shaded and set up for infant gross motor to enable them to have also outdoor space in a safe environment that is exclusive for the infant. So it will be a small portion of the back part of the rooftop. And to decrease the need to go to a park, a public space, as much as possible. We will be, again, a rotation for the gross motor room. And those are the areas that children and those staff are only allowed to be in. Unless, of course, they're ill and they need to come to the 1st floor office. However, students will not be allowed to go in any other classroom or the staff lounge or the print room or any other hallway. So it will be very limited and restricted. Staffing for the August program. So it will be our Ppe associate guides, and you can visit in our follow-up, we'll send you a link to visit the website to view photos and headshots and bios. Infant program will be staffed by Miss Jean and Miss Carnegie, both of which, one is from lower infant, one is from upper infant, that will be providing care for our August families. Toddler, Miss Batista and Miss Maldonado. She's also goes by Miss V, Virginia is her name. And in primary, Miss Atanislau and Miss Nieves. The cost for August is the same month tuition that was paid in March if you're attending in August. And to accommodate for the 6 p.m. to 5 p.m. Aftercare change, aftercare families will receive a $100 discount for August. Reminder, all enrollment paperwork is due, including the attendance agreement, including immunizations, by August 1st for everyone, and we'll be doing individual follow-up next week for any families attending in August who have not yet completed their enrollment paperwork. Okay, September reopening details. So our enrollment for September, we do have infant and toddler English spaces available. Our maximum student group sizes in September will be 9 in infant, 12 in toddler, and 15 in primary. Our ratios will maintain the DOH ratios of 3 to 1 in infant, 6 students to 1 teacher in toddler, and 10 students to 1 teacher in primary, again with a maximum of 2 teachers per classroom, and again exclusive static cohorts of children. Our programming, maintaining authentic Montessori and Spanish immersion programming with a return of our lead guides in September. And we are we've been constantly developing contingency plans for various scenarios that could happen. And one of them is developing a more robust home support program for virtual learning. And the additional details and information will be shared if we do have to pursue virtual learning and support come September. We don't know if there's a second wave or whatever may happen. And that really looks like sending home of physical items, a physical learning pack. So art supplies that are prepped and ready, videos that are prepped and ready that give you the resources to do that. Also materials, Montessori materials would be sent home so the child can manipulate and use the Montessori materials. Increased one-on-one lessons and sessions to provide that. Increased parent education and individual home environment setup consultations, because as we know as Montessorians, the environment the child is in is part of that triangle trifecta of our approach. So individual home environment setup consultations with parents on how to put materials out and encourage their independent use. Aftercare will be in classrooms in September and in August with classroom guides, and that's why we are limiting our hours. So we have just one group of staff that are with that children exclusively all day. We are still in the process of finalizing our move-up plan for children who are due to move up in September or were due to move up between March and September, and additional details and information will be shared individually with families that impacts. Again, schedule and daily routine. School hours will maintain 8 to 5. Aftercare families, we will be working with you to assign individual pickup times because we have such a mass of students. We're going into the fall with 84 children, and many of which are aftercare. So even doing a 4 or 5 p.m. pickup, it will have a lot of mixing that we cannot do. So we will be following up to assign those times accordingly. Infant families for September, like in August, all infant families are scheduled to be 8 to 5. Transitional start dates for new families, and we'll be sharing additional details and information individually with families that are newly starting. This is a process that we go through every year, and part of your enrollment offer should list your projected anticipated start date, and we slowly transition new students into our classrooms at the start of a school year, so there's not an overwhelming nature for the children, and there's also the opportunity for that individualized approach with the classroom teachers and the new student and their classroom peers, so they get that special time to receive individual lessons, etc., in the Montessori classroom, and we'll be communicating accordingly. And again, it's the same daily routine as the spring semester, excluding rotating recess for exclusive gross motor room access if there is inclement weather, but otherwise it will be the same daily routine: coming in, washing hands, work cycle, snack, lunch, nap, aftercare, recess before lunch, sorry. Okay. All enrolled classrooms will be in use in September. Outdoor spaces, same as August. Primary classrooms will split the roof. So we'll have a divider. The terrace, the roof and the terrace, the toddlers will use the rooftop. Again, the gross motor room will be on a rotation as needed, and those restrictions for access will still be in place in September. Our staffing for September, so our staff survey results really showed, we surveyed our staff about returning and comfort for returning. Majority of our staff are returning, and that is so exciting, and I'm very thrilled to welcome our very missed teachers back to school as well. And majority are comfortable for a mid-August return for prepping the school with a September 8th start date for students. The teachers that are starting on August 3rd, actually they're starting on Monday to prepare and welcome students on August 3rd. They're the teachers that indicated comfort and willingness to start earlier than the mid-August start for everyone else. So we're still in the process of finalizing our fall staffing. We are continuing to communicate with our teachers, and as additional information will become apparent, we will be sharing that with everyone. Our assistant head of school hiring has been deferred. We are not prioritizing that until we get through this pandemic and is, on the other side of it. But however, we are maintaining relationships with our consultants, Sarah Shattervan, who we have this evening, Jean Stewart, who's our HR consultant and has been blown us away with the amount of help that she has provided through this pandemic, and our anti-bias, anti-racist consultant, Britt Hawthorne, will be also providing virtual workshops through the Bridge Week in August. The cost, we will do the $100 aftercare discount per month for families. And the contingency plan tuition, what virtual tuition looks like, what all of that, we're still in the process of finalizing that, and we will communicate accordingly. But we are adhering to our 2020-21 withdrawal policy, which is a 90-day withdrawal policy. So that is still in effect. Ready for the next. So it's 9:13. I think I can do some of these FAQs that we collected for you all. So I'm just going to read the questions that were submitted beforehand via our parent survey to address any questions that may still be out there. And again, if you have questions that were not addressed this evening or through any of the process that we have been, please send them to us, and we will either schedule a follow-up parent meeting to address those questions, or we will answer them accordingly via email. Okay, so first, the August program questions that we received. Will the program be alternating days or full week? The August program is a 5-day program with the same daily schedule as March enrollment for August enrolled students. What hours will the August program be? School hours will be 8 to 5. Drop-off will occur between 8 and 8:30 a.m., one family at a time at the locations. Infants will be at the front right door. Toddlers will be at the rear door, and primary will be at the front main door in the vestibule. And again, we'll follow up with this information for August families, so you have it in your writing and a map and everything, so you see that. What will the infant classroom and child experience look like in the classroom? There are 6 children that will be in the upper infant classroom. They're various ages from lower infant through 18 months. So they'll be in the upper infant classroom with Miss Jean and Miss Carnegie. They will have ample opportunities to be outside, many gross motor activities, the daily schedule of when exactly we're going outside. We're still in process of putting together, pending what the children's daily schedules are. So your child's nap schedule, feeding schedule, etc., will be maintained. And we'll follow up with our infant families accordingly to give you a little bit more August information. Will virtual programming continue in August? Yes. What is the August virtual programming tuition? It continues to be $750 per child. Will August be Montessori or more like a daycare camp? Following the traditional summer programming, associate guides will guide students in August, following the summer virtual program activities and theme within the learning packs. Students will spend increased time outdoors with water activities and appropriate practical life activities like gardening, sweeping, pouring, etc. What does the in-person August program tuition cost? August tuition is equal to the March 2020 tuition paid by enrolled families. What is the cost for full year families not attending the August program? It continues to be $750 per child for the virtual program. Will children who are not committed for August but have maintained commitment through the pandemic lose spots for fall? No, virtual programming will continue. And enrolled families who are not attending in person in August, for whatever reason, your spot maintains to be secured, and that is not at risk for September. Some COVID safety questions. What is the daily health screening process? So there's kind of two parts to it. The first is the pre-completed questionnaire via Transparent Classroom for families to complete in the morning prior to arriving at school. And that's asking your symptoms, if you've traveled, etc. And then upon drop off and arrival, there's the in-person health check, which is the temperature reading, the physical signs of COVID symptoms, checking that you did complete the health questionnaire and checking your child in accordingly. What is the protocol and process when someone within the community has a confirmed case of COVID-19? We will follow all the Department of Health and CDC guidelines should this occur, including closure. As the COVID-19 situation continually evolves and new information is learned, this is the current COVID action plan for mitigating exposure to symptomatic, positive, or asymptomatic persons. Ppe, we do reserve the right to update this policy as the pandemic continues to progress and new guidelines are released. And the current language is within the safety plan that we'll be sharing, the Google document, and I encourage everyone to really read that thoroughly. How frequently will staff be required to undergo COVID testing? Initially upon reopening prior to the students attending school, and then every 2 weeks thereafter. What are the details of infant, toddler drop-off and pickup? I'm not going to go into this in detail as it's very detailed in our safety plan. Please review the detailed safety plan that we share, and if you have any additional questions, please do let us know. Some main points though are 1 adult at a time, adhering to your assigned drop-off times and pickup times and location, and completing the health screening questionnaire prior to dropping off. The same goes for pickup. And again, late drop-off is unavailable and early pickup is only permitted in the event of a health emergency. What are the stroller procedures? Strollers will be stored for infant families only. So infant students will be dropped off in their stroller at the assigned front entrance door and assigned time. And we will be having the teachers available to have that face-to-face in-person communication with infant families at the front door of the school. So you can still interact, but then the teacher will be taking the child in their stroller to the classroom. Student strollers will be disinfected and stored in the lower level stroller storage room after drop off. And upon pickup, students will be ready to be picked up in their strollers at the same entrance as drop off. Stroller storage is only available to infant families. Scooters, bikes, etc. for infants for toddler and primary students is not available at this time. And again, that is really to mitigate bringing anything into the building that is not essential. So that was a question that we did receive. Is there any way to continue stroller storage? And, you know, I wish that there were, but we're really focused on ensuring the health and safety of our students during drop-off and pickup, and limiting our exposure as adults and as students. And when we're bringing in more items and having to move those around the building, it is taking our attention off of the ability to mitigate that risk and exposure and bringing in potential hazardous items. Cleaning and disinfection. What measures are going to be taken to make sure all areas are disinfected, and how often? The facility will be thoroughly cleaned and disinfected nightly using a professional cleaning service. The hallways, shared spaces, doorknobs, etc. will be cleaned and sanitized 3 times a day after drop-off and prior to pickup. Cleaning and disinfection logs will be kept and maintained in each classroom and by the team and the nightly cleaning crew. Opening, midday, and closing checklists are updated with COVID protocol, and staff will be thoroughly trained prior to August 3rd and September 8th reopening, with ongoing training, feedback, and enforcement throughout the school year. So when will the use of HEPA grade HVAC filters begin? HVAC maintenance has begun and will be completed by August 24th. Prior to students attending school on August 3rd, and that will be an ongoing monthly basis. How will airflow be managed and fresh air brought in circulation? Again, will be in August, the children will be using rooms that have the outside windows while we continue to install the HEPA air purification systems in classrooms. And our HVAC system works in the way that it's already pulling in that outside air. Will toilet lids be utilized consistently, fully closed, and covering the toilet opening? We purposely do not use toilet lids to aid a child's independence of toileting and often urgency to use the toilet. At this time, we do not have a plan to install toilet lids and covers. It is not currently a CDC nor New York State guideline or recommendation. However, we have been in communication with our partners at the Brooklyn Coalition, and we'll implement best practices, and we're analyzing this to see if it is something that we want to do prior to August 3rd. So we'll keep you in touch, keep you updated on that. What type of UV lights will be used? UVC sanitizing lights. And will UVC lights be used to sanitize classrooms? When will they be used to sanitize classrooms? They will be used only after hours when children and staff are not in the building, and they will be used by the professional cleaning crew. How will deliveries be managed? Deliveries will be made at the front door of the school in the vestibule, and delivery personnel will not enter the school building. How will social distancing be maintained during neighborhood walks? Children will be staggered while holding onto the walking rope, keeping space between each other. Longer walking ropes will be utilized to allow for the proper spacing. Infants will either be walked in their own personal stroller, or they will maintain spacing between students in the larger school strollers. And both the walking ropes and school strollers will be cleaned and sanitized between uses. For fire drills, how will social distancing be maintained? We will follow the same protocol as I just outlined for the neighborhood walks. However, in the event of an emergency, again, our first priority is exiting the building quickly. Are children able to play on the roof while maintaining social distancing? Yes. The children will utilize the rooftop with only their classroom cohort and a maximum of 15 students within that cohort. The roof will be split so classrooms can use it at the same time while being separated. And the rooftop and the outdoor environment will be prepared to encourage maximum social distancing, and activities will be led by the guides to accommodate the distancing and encourage socially distanced games and activities accordingly. Is it known why the government has given guidance to not allow indoor dining while at the same time allowing indoor schooling to resume? We cannot speak for the state or city government and the decision-making process. We are following the guidelines, best practices in order to provide a safe environment for students and teachers. We would like to understand the risk factors of the other families participating in the program. How do people get to school? Are people working out of the home, etc.? And again, we can't speak for the families and community members. However, we do trust and expect families to adhere to these strict social distancing measures outside of school, practice healthy hygiene, suspend non-essential travel, follow all school safety rules and protocol, and communicate accordingly. All families and staff and vendors are required, again, to sign the attendance work agreement, committing to our COVID safety plan and outline prior to attending school. And we do know that we have an immensely committed, caring community who love our students and one another deeply and really do prioritize the collective health and safety of everyone. Many of our families, many of our staff have already exhibited extreme caution and consideration as we have all learned how to navigate this pandemic accordingly. So, you know, part of this and again, the stress of committing to that as a community is very, very important. Have you considered adding a classroom to allow for fewer children per room? We have heard that some schools are using outdoor spaces or putting up temporary classroom domes to accommodate more social distancing while allowing the school to remain open for a normal day. We are not at this time doing that for several reasons. Currently, our enrollment allows for the use of our spaces accordingly. We have an amazing facility. We're very grateful for the spaces that we have. We have large classrooms, so the square footage that we have in our current spaces is ample. And the way that a Montessori classroom environment is set up is prepared purposely already for independence and social distancing accordingly. So, you know, we will continue to monitor and implement and, you know, be responsive to the situation. However, at this time, we don't feel it's necessary to add temporary classroom environments because that's also such an integral part is the prepared environment to our pedagogy and our approach. What is the code of conduct for staff and families to abide by for reopening? How will it be enforced? So again, a requirement to sign the attendance agreement and acknowledgement. And we'll be making sure that everyone does that. You cannot attend unless you do so. And families or staff who are found to not adhere to the attendance agreement will be terminated, either their enrollment or their employment. And again, it's a zero tolerance approach, and we're taking it very seriously and strictly adhering to this. And then quickly, some September programming questions. The transition schedule. What is the plan to transition from summer program to the academic year program? So we will have a bridge week as we've always planned. That is August 31st to September 4th. The school is closed to students, and that's when we have our whole team back at the school, and that's undergoing training, classroom preparation, etc. So that really aids our transition to the school year. And then again, the transitional start dates to allow returning students to settle in and move up students to undergo a transition week as well during the very beginning weeks of school. What would virtual program look like in the fall if needed? And again, we're continuing to create and strategize this contingency plan. Should this take place and be necessary, our preliminary analysis, again, is including physical Montessori materials and physical learning packs sent home, increased individual virtual lessons, increased parental support and education, and individualizing home environment consultations and support to set up your environment at home. School finance. How have teachers been paid and how will they be paid going forward? We are concerned about their well-being and livelihoods. Can parents organize a voluntary supplementary income pool? And first and foremost, this is extremely kind and generous and thoughtful question to ask. So I'm very grateful to the parents that asked this and have, you know, really thought about this. And we've really worked hard, and I'm very proud of all that we've been able to do for our teachers and our team members through this pandemic to maintain support and financial security. Well, it's been very difficult, and we've always centered fair pay practices and compensation for our staff. That's been one of our guiding principles as we have become Ppe, is how can we appropriately compensate our staff in a fair way. And so with that said, we're continuing to pay health benefits. However, and we, always will support our teachers no matter what, however we can. However, if parents would like to set up a supplementary income pool, please reach out, and we'll work together on how we can set that up. That's, again, incredibly kind and generous, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And how long will the school be financially viable with virtual learning at a reduced tuition? And again, we are working through various financial models and continue to respond to the situation as it unfolds. We have one scenario, and one day it's out of the picture because something changes. And because of this fluctuating nature, there's not a very clear answer. We respond to the situation and leverage our planning to ensure that our cash flow runs as long as possible. So with that said, we maintain transparent communication with everyone to be very clear and open and honest about where we're at. So we're not at risk of running out of cash flow at this time or for the next couple months. And we're kind of taking it 1 week at a time. And I just want to give a shout out to Melanie Hopkins, who's a member of our parent community, who has been integral and critical to our financial modeling and planning, and I am thankful for her expertise. And finally, has there been any consideration regarding the new required notice period for withdrawal? And at this time, we continue to adhere to the 90-day withdrawal policy while working with families to find solutions that serve everyone equitably and equally. So very quick run through of our initial submitted questions. And before we wrap up, I just wanted to go through some next steps and things to expect as we move through the next several weeks to month prior to reopening. Thank you. So I'll pull it up here. So we will have our enrollment documents again are due on Saturday, August 1st for everyone. Please make sure that you have that in your calendar. It's on our parent calendar, so please adhere to that deadline. For new families who are joining us in September, we will have our virtual new family onboarding session on Monday, August 3rd at 4 p.m. And during that session, we will talk about and go through all of our other school policies and protocol that you need to know for a successful start. On Wednesday, September 2nd, we will have a virtual meeting at 8 p.m. on Zoom for all parents, all families, and that parent meeting will be about returning to school. So reminders for all of these safety protocol, any updates, continue to answer questions, have a little bit more clarity around move-ups or any other questions that come in. We'll have that time on Wednesday, September 2nd. And during Bridge Week, we will be doing student meet and greets in person. More information and details about that will be shared to have classroom teacher meet and greets. So it will be individualized, one child at a time. And then also for new families, for an admin meet and greet and a whole facility kind of walkthrough so you can see the school again for families who are joining us in September. Also in the coming week for August 3rd families and in mid-August for September starts, via email, you'll be receiving a welcome packet that has your classroom information, including staff, location, etc., your door code, safety protocol reminders again, information for preparing your child to return to school. So educational resources on how to prepare your child to wear a mask if they're over 2, how to talk about, expectations around school and coping with the many emotions that we'll all be feeling when we come to school. So that will be a part of the welcome pack. Photos of our staff wearing our masks to share with your children. So you can kind of get comfortable knowing what we look like with our masks on, both with our masks and without our masks and our face shields. Outstanding paperwork that is due, and you will also receive your assigned pickup, drop-off times, and locations. And also next week for August and mid-August for families in September, via Transparent Classroom, you will receive the attendance agreement that we've talked about tonight. And you will receive an omnipresent authorized pickup changing your authorized pickup person form in Transparent Classroom. So that will always be available to you to use if you need to change that. So please be on the lookout for things coming through in Transparent Classroom, notably those forms, and know that all of this welcome packet information will be shared. So that is it. I am sorry that we went over time. I was really trying to keep it super short, but this is a lot of information. We will be sharing again, following up the Google Doc of the detailed in-depth safety plan. We will share the recording of tonight's meeting and presentation. We'll share the PDF of the presentation that we shared as well. So you can digest it and review it in depth and send us any questions that you have, and we will address those either in another second scheduled parent meeting if necessary, or in an email. We will also be sharing the current list of questions that I read from, so you also have that access as well. So otherwise, thank you everyone for joining us this evening and staying on for 1 hour and 40 minutes. I cannot wait to see you all in person.